Good morning, y'all.
Good morning.
Everyone can take a breath. I learned that to breathe deeply, breathe out first. Push it out as far as you can, and then allow the breath to inspire versus trying to start with full lungs to breathe deeply. The reading this morning is from the first letter to the Corinthians in the Christian Scriptures, chapter 12. For just as the body is one and has many members, and all the members of the body, though many, are one body, so it is with Christ. For in this one Spirit we are all baptized into one body, Jews or Greeks, slaves or free, and we are all made to drink of one Spirit. Indeed, the body does not consist of one member, but of many. But as it is, God arranged the members in the body, each one of them as God chose. If all were a single member, where would the body be? And I like to add, who and what would the body be? As it is, there are many members, yet one body. For the past several months, Tracy and I have rediscovered the simple fun of doing jigsaw puzzles. It might be old school or old fashioned, but we both felt the need to get away from the digital silos that our use of screen time had created. Screen time was a lifesaver for me for about a year and a half, so I don't diss it. Jigsaw puzzles offer us an enjoyable, colorful pastime that we can easily pick up as we come and go individually or as together. And they also are a great exercise for the brain. But in the past couple of weeks, I've come to see that jigsaw puzzles are something like the unfolding disruption of communal life everywhere around the world. Kind of like Forrest Gump and his box of chocolates, but something way more complex and increasingly fragmented, like a 1,000-piece puzzle. The fact that a message about community has once again risen to the level of worship, for me, speaks of its continued importance in our life and perhaps growing importance in our lives. So today, I want to explore with you some specific parallels between puzzles and community that illustrate how we might build what works best at every level of community without recreating what's long been broken. And I think if you keep on doing what you've always done, you'll always get what you will get what you've always gotten. As an aside, I do want to say that whenever I refer to community, I'm including communities of all sizes, and to me that's where two or more are gathered from what we hear of Jesus in Matthew. That gathered community could be a family of two. It could be a friendship or a casual group or a small organization, a large corporation. All of those are communities. I like to kind of think that my inner children and my inner adults are a community. Nor is the rebuilding of community some far off distant goal. The need is now, and it is only growing. So the first thing Tracy and I do when we start a jigsaw puzzle is to just dump all the pieces out of the box. When they're dumped out on a table, the pile of puzzle pieces looks kind of like utter chaos. Like the utter chaos of tohu wavohu that God saw in the depths of the Hebrew creation story in Genesis 1, the beginning of the beginning. And it's kind of like what it feels where it feels humanity finds itself today. Perhaps the beginning of the beginning, tohu wavohu. For a moment, Tracy and I just stand there over the table, taking in the array of puzzle pieces. With most jigsaw puzzles, or at least the ones we work, there are no two pieces that are exactly alike. But when we look closer and start to flip over the pieces that are face down, then the jigsaw puzzle doesn't seem as chaotic or overwhelming as it first appeared. Although we cannot see how these disparate pieces will eventually fit together, it becomes apparent that we're looking at a picture that has merely been disassembled and is waiting to be reconnected. When we look at the current state of our communities, it can feel like someone or multiple someones has dumped the whole box onto the table. Nearly every institution feels shaken, rattled. Our trust feels thinner. Even our shared stories, our common humanity, feels scattered about. What looks like chaos, though, if we take a step back and a higher look, can be something else entirely. A picture that has fallen to pieces and is waiting to be reassembled in new ways. But we can't start rebuilding the fragments of a jigsaw puzzle just by quickly grabbing a piece and slapping it out in the middle of the table. We can't do that any more than communities can shove back together all the splintered pieces of what used to be. The next step Tracy and I take in doing the crossword puzzle is to sort out the puzzle pieces. But before we even start sorting, we first have to come to an agreement about how we're going to approach the puzzle. And if you didn't know, there are really two ways to start a puzzle. Do we want to start with the edges, or do we want to begin with the center section? Similarly, before rebuilding community can begin, those involved have to decide, how are we going to work together? What agreements will be our guide? What boundaries will serve as the framework? Each community needs a language of covenant, an agreement around what does it mean to be part of this community, this family, this group, this organization. Such a framework doesn't provide the big picture. If you think about it, it's the frame. But it helps define the community by shaping the guidelines and building scaffolding that will help guide healthy growth. On the other hand, rebuilding community from the center can anchor the beginnings of a new big picture. This involves a deep and thorough examination of shared values and mutual ideals. Beginning from the middle, from the inside out, is to uncover first what's most meaningful to the community. So once Tracy and I have decided on how we're going to start the jigsaw puzzle, we then begin to sort the pieces, looking at their unique detail. If we plan to start with the outer frame, we make a pile of the flat edge pieces first. And if the center is our starting point, we look for pieces that have distinctive features and put those in a pile. From there, we sort by textures, images, colors. Y'all, I know you're not aware of this, but we actually have a jigsaw puzzle expert in our midst today who shall remain unnamed. But she has taught me and Tracy to put each pile of pieces on a paper plate to keep them together. That way they don't end up on the floor. They don't end up scattered and thinned. To me, that's a perfect metaphor of the usefulness for having boundaries and framework in a community. When it comes to sorting humans, though, throughout history, sorting's been done in more horrific and harmful ways. We have sorted and been sorted by socioeconomic status, the haves and the have-nots. We've sorted by caste, by skin color, by nationality, religion. I could just go on and on. It's an endless list and is more like a moving target based on what I like to call the whim du jour. Whatever's in style. When it comes to building a genuine community, sorting asks us first to be very patient with the slow process. Second, we must pay close attention to the values, the stories, and the lived experiences of everyone involved. Listening with special care to those stories that go untold and to those whose voices have been unheard. We humans may be one of one spirit, but we are 8 billion individuals, each with our own personal stories. As Tracy and I start assembling the jigsaw puzzle from the piles, we often find pieces that just don't belong, no matter how hard we try. And we have found this is especially true of puzzles that have been gifted or thrifted. I walk past the ones in the thrift store saying, yeah, but what's in the box? Sometimes we find pieces we've inherited from the previous puzzle owner that don't belong to the puzzle we're working. Despite our best efforts, they just don't match any part of what we're putting together. Other puzzle pieces are worn out or worn down, like maybe a dog, sorry, Kathy, or maybe a toddler got a hold of a puzzle piece and chewed on the edges and it just doesn't fit anymore. Or maybe somebody spilled a drink on it and it takes up twice the amount of space. In any event, those pieces no longer serve the needs of those of us gathered around the table. Worse yet, y'all know this, some of the pieces are missing. Yes. And we've worked so hard to assemble all the fragments of the puzzle, but even one missing piece changes the entire perspective. The most difficult challenge, I think, is when there is no big picture, one that reveals the completed puzzle. And yeah, I know y'all with the young eyes, that tiny picture on the front of the box It doesn't work. There's nothing that compares to that mini poster that's in the box, and it shows every single detail of the puzzle very clearly. Without a clear big picture, the puzzle assembling is a lot of work. It's a lot of mistakes, and it takes much more time. In these epic, life-changing times we're living, there are indeed some puzzle pieces that interfere with how we humans connect. This can include ideas and practices that maybe held a community together really well and worked great for a period of time, but now they have not evolved to serve current and future needs. And then there are what are called quick solutions to complex problems. And on a personal level, perhaps there is leadership that really doesn't buy into the big picture. Or there are those who have taken on roles out of obligation rather than serving from the heart. Not that I have done that, but once or twice. All of these impede the community's ability to connect and succeed in the long run. You may not know until you're halfway down the street that it's not going to work. Some of the most important pieces of a community puzzle are the ones that were never on the table to begin with. We can count among these missing pieces the marginalized voices that have long been excluded, wisdom traditions that have been lost, and trust that has either been broken or was never fully earned to begin with. One of the greatest challenges in reconnecting community is that we may not be able to envision what the big picture might look like. And I don't know anybody who owns a crystal ball. Quite likely, we have yet ourselves to imagine a bigger, brighter picture filled with all kinds of new possibilities while we are still being freed from familiar but limited knowledge and outdated perspectives. That kind of uncertainty can be unsettling. It makes us nervous and we want to fix it. When the picture on the puzzle box isn't quite clear, it's tempting to fix it by forcing the pieces together just to feel like we're making progress. It goes here, yeah, no. But anybody who has worked a jigsaw puzzle knows that forcing pieces together never works. The shape of the picture has to emerge patiently, piece by piece. And from there, the big picture can grow organically. American historian and activist Rebecca Solnit captures this kind of community connection even in the face of uncertainty. Hope locates itself in the premises that we don't know what will happen. And second, in the spaciousness of uncertainty, there is room to act and to grow. As the pieces of a puzzle are carefully sorted and connected, be they part of a jigsaw puzzle or a human community puzzle, the clusters of connected fragments do grow the big picture. What once started out looking like tohu wavohu, total chaos, slowly becomes recognizable as small sections are completed. The cohesive parts of a whole emerge gradually from that big pile of puzzle pieces to the big picture. In recent months, small groups of caring humans have begun to form cohesive parts of the whole around many different human issues. Such a group is leading a global meditation called the Great Synchronization on March 21st. I urge you to look it up, the Great Synchronization. Communities such as this are already creating bigger pictures, even as the old pictures continue to crumble. In the end, jigsaw puzzles and communities come together in the same way, by ordinary people consistently showing up. The puzzles of a jigsaw and a community are assembled carefully, intentionally, when patient hands keep returning to the table with eyes and hearts open. The poet Adrienne Rich summarizes well this rebuilding of what matters most. My heart is moved by all I cannot save. So much has been destroyed. I have to cast my lot with those who, age after age, perversely and with no extraordinary power, reconstitute the world. May we step back into the world with open eyes and steady hearts, trusting that here and across the globe, in quiet rooms, around kitchen tables, and in gathered communities like this one, people like us with no ordinary power, no extraordinary power, can patiently help put the broken pieces of our world back together. And so it is.